RuneScape has a weird system of PvM in the situations that there's a few bosses that you kind of feel like it's better to solo them than it is to duo. And there's a lot of people that do wonder, including myself, whether it is better to play as a duo or a solo, and I wanted to answer that question. So what I did in this video is find out whether you will make more money going it alone in PvM, and whether if you go on a duo, you'll make more money that way instead. What I did is take someone at the same level in PvM as me and went and did a 5-hour set boss sort of order of PvM. We only did bosses that we were comfortable with. We planned it out to fit pretty nicely into a 5-hour window. All bosses included don't have a downside to doing these, so that it kept it fair, except for having to split any rare drops that one of us would have got. All the rules that we followed were pretty much just standard duo stuff that you would do. Go to the bosses, keep your own loot in most situations, and then split the actual rare drops, because most places now will give you your own loot, especially the bosses that we did. The set bosses I followed along the exact same way in solo, but still limited myself to 5 hours. So I could not complete all of them, but that's important and kind of things that we need to take on board to consider the difference in value on loot. So the goal of this video is to go through and take a look at both profits that we got from both sides, talk about a few things that are worth mentioning along the ways of both as well, and then compare the actual final amounts and talk about why we arrived at that situation and overall what I think would be better. So if you do enjoy this video, make sure to leave a like, subscribe to the channel if you are new, and let's go. Okay, so first we need to talk about the variables that you're going to run into when you are trying to do this. What you're going to run into is things like the duo partner that you're going to go with, which I kept as someone that is very much the same skill level as myself. A few of you may have heard of him. He is called Shax. He's the one that can't get a drop at Raksha to save his life. The reason this is important is because it lets you know that whether you're just doubling up on someone with the same skill, you're not being carried, you're not just like leeching through kills and stuff, and it gives a more accurate idea of for you guys when you want to go, if you are going with someone around the same skill level. If you're going with someone higher skill level, then of course expect to get more out of it, and then if you're taking someone lower skill level, then you can sort of wind that down a little bit as well. Next, as I mentioned, the bosses that we are going to be doing are all set out in an order that fits into a nice 5-hour window. This is going to be for the duo section. We did a 2-hour run of Elite Dungeon trilogies, because Elite Dungeons now don't punish you for doing this in a group anymore, which is absolutely great. And then after that, we went to Raksha for 1 hour, next for 1 hour, and then did 1 more hour of Elite Dungeons 3. The reason we didn't include Karapak or anything like that is because I purely just don't want to be doing Karapak just yet, as I am still trying to get my drop there as a solo, seeing as I am about 700 dry. But also, all of these bosses do not punish you for doing them in a duo. Of course, next you will have to split the loot, so that's absolutely fine, and we did that. But otherwise, everybody gets their own drops at Raksha, everybody gets their own drops at Elite Dungeons, and at Raksha, the actual rare chance is just doubled, because you get 2 people with a chance of rolling each time, rather than just the one. Drop rates don't change any of these bosses in duo anymore, it's all the same, so the lineup of the bosses is quite important. When I followed this in solo, I went and did the exact same path. I did the 2 hours of trilogies, then I did Raksha for an hour, and due to my aura overlapping, I went and did my ED3 runs to finish the hour off, and then on my final hour, I did my next runs. So I didn't get a full hour of ED3 runs in the last bit like we did in the duos, as I took a lot longer to do my Elite Dungeon trilogies, meaning the difference in runs from Elite Dungeons that I got was around about 3, I believe, 3 Elite Dungeon runs. Then also you need to take into account I would have got less next skills as well. The final thing that you need to take into account as a variable is going to be RNG. RNG is going to change this, and I'm going to separate this to make it a little bit easier to follow on the best way to do it, because if you just to go, you know what, in a duo I made 600 mil, and in the solo I made 200 mil, you can't really do that, because you may have just got really lucky in the duo, you may have got unlucky in the solo. You can't do that. So what we're going to do is take a look at the amount of trash loot that we got as well, or the random junk that you'll probably get consistently throughout the whole thing, and then we'll look at the actual splits if we got any, and then finally, of course, we'll take a look at the totals. But this way you'll get a good breakdown of how much you can actually expect to get. Of course, you'll also need to take into account which bosses you're going to be doing, but this was just the easiest way for me to show you an example. Okay, so let's get into the fun bits. Let's get into the profit that we made and any sort of issues we ran into during the actual duo run. So like I said, the duo run started out with Elite Dungeon trilogies, and this went pretty okay. We didn't get any drops throughout the whole thing for the trilogies, so we just didn't get any rares, we didn't get lucky, but we did get our consistent stuff. So ED1 is a consistent money, the ancient scales are great, and of course in ED2 we are guaranteed the energies as well. While you will get different amounts every time you do this, you can sort of scale it up and down, whatever you want to do, to the averages to make sure you know how much you're going to be getting. Even though we didn't get any rare drops, we did get to the end and managed to get ourselves, of course, the elite chest. That's why we did this, because the elite chests add that little bit extra. It just made sense, and also mixing up the content is always a good thing. Running the dungeons is a lot faster in a duo than it is in a solo, which is why the drop rates used to be changed to a difference, but now they're not. So because, you know, why punish people to do anything in a group? That being said, because we were in a duo, we didn't take as long as we would have expected to do these trilogies in. We gave ourselves 2 hours, but we didn't need the full 2 hours, so we spent the extra little bit of time that we had at Raksha. As that was our next boss, we figured go there, spend the rest of the time there, and just crack on with that. Once the extra time was done, we then did a full hour after that. So it was about an hour and 10 minutes, an hour and 15 minutes, or something like that, of actually doing Raksha. We did run into a few complications in Raksha, as of course during a live stream things are all different than when you do it normally, but it is what it is. We did screw up like the mechanics a few times with the pools and whatnot, but you know what, it's a good example of this. These things happen. These things do happen. You got to take them into account, and it is what it is. We did get to the end of the Raksha hour, and we did manage to snag ourselves a shadow spike on the very first kill. So the shadow spike was pretty damn good, and we knew that we'd made some money at this point, as, you know what, that's a good split. That's a pretty decent split. And while it was still early days, we could still expect to see some more stuff in the future. Finishing up Raksha, we didn't get anything else. It was just the shadow spike to come to the end of it, but of course you do get some good value drops from here, and we both received our own drops. I'll also be including Chax's value, like total value of stuff towards the end as well, just to give you guys 2 versions and not just one. After Raksha, we went and did our hour in Nex, which was a little bit different, as of course Nex is kind of an older boss, so you kind of fly through this, especially in a duo. You fly through these kills so fast. So he had an ECP. I was pretty terrible. I was pretty much leeching this, let's be honest. But Chax has an ECB, we get through the kills pretty quick, and we do get our drops. During the next hour, Chax did get a Torva Gloves drop, which is another pretty decent drop to get compared to like all the other ones on the table. I mean, it could have been a Torva Plate Body, but whatever, it's fine. Add that to the list, and that will go towards our split as well. Other than that, it was just normal loots, and what we ended up doing here is whatever loot that I got, I kept. Whatever loot he got, he kept, as it did end up sometimes being a bit different, as I was kind of trolling him a little bit by pulling Nex away from his range whenever I could, and making sure she was like on him as well and not voking her or whatever, so that he kind of couldn't do the DPS that he needed to do because I'd pulled her away. All bits of fun to do on stream. But anyway, we ended up just keeping the loots from Nex that we had either way, but you'll get to see his loot and my loot by the end of it, and it was very much the same. After Nex, we travelled back to ED3 and did another hour at ED3. We got 5 runs in the hour in a duo. 5 runs, that's pretty good. I'm sure there's duos out there that could do a lot better, maybe 6 or 7, but 5 runs for an hour of ED3, I'm pretty impressed with that. That's pretty damn good. So, during this time at ED3, we did manage to get a drop. Chax, again, coming in with all the RNG today, managed to snag a Eldritch Crossbow Mechanism, which is insanely good. That's a lot of money added to the freaking split. So we did make a good amount of money doing this, and that's your RNG coming into play. In the duo, we got 3 drops. 3 of them were pretty damn good, and we kind of looked out on the drops we got. I mean, if we'd got something like Laceration Boots from Raksha, then we'd got like a Pernix Cowl from Nex, and then we'd got like Chax getting the pet at 83. Everything would have been a bit different, right? But that's why we're going to look at the regular loots as well. So that brings the duo 5 hours to an end, and the total that we got from there, my regular loot was 70.4 million GP. The regular loot that Chax got was 58 million GP, as I got the elite chest, like mentioned before, the ultra elite one, and then the split that we did have, both of us got 479 million GP each. That brings my total to 549.4 million GP, and Chax's total to 537 million GP. So we made about 550 mil each-ish, like give or take a little bit, but that was from the duo. Let's jump back and take a look at the solo and how that went. Okay, so moving on to the solo bits, which is what I did for 5 hours by myself, seeing as it's solo, who would have guessed? Anyway, basically, we did the same as what we had to do in a duo. So, I started off with 2 runs of trilogies, which did take longer than 2 hours, and this is kind of the point, right? I'm going to get less done in a solo than I would in a duo, because that stuff is just so much faster. So, I got to the end of the trilogies, but I still needed to do things like the full hour of Raksha Nex, and then the full hour of Nex. I can't, like, just change it to do whatever I want to do. That's what I want to keep in place. So I got to Raksha and I still did my full hour. This meant by the time we were done with Raksha, we were 3 hours and around about 20 minutes done, as the trilogies took me 2 hours and 20 minutes. So an hour from then, a Raksha was 3 hours and 20 minutes. I'm explaining this really badly. This is the 7th time I've done it. We're just going to have to go on from here. So during the actual trilogies, we didn't get any rare drops, but we did get a decent amount of ancient scales and energies, so it made a pretty good amount of money. And of course, there's the elite chests as well. There was no ultra elites this time, just the pure elite ones, so the normal ones that you'd expect. Then from Raksha, I didn't get any rare drops again. I feel like my RNG is just broken in this game. I'm not going to lie, my personal RNG at least anyway. We did make money from the duos, so okay, we did make money, it's good. But I mean, come on, Jagex, where's my drops? Where's the stuff in my name, man? It's still been like 4 months. Anyway, moving back to the actual point, nothing from Raksha, but there was some decent drops, except for all the seeds and whatnot. But that's just Raksha at this point, it is what it is. So because I made Raksha, I did kind of move the order around a little bit, but it all still lines up more or less the same. I knew I needed to do 1 hour of next, and then what I was going to be missing out on was Elite Dungeon time, ED3. So rather than just trying to work it all out differently, whatever like time I had left on my aura, which was about 40 minutes left from my Raksha time to get me to the 4th hour mark, I just went direct to ED3 and did 40 minutes there. I can do 1 run every 20 minutes or just less than 20 minutes, so I can manage to get 2 runs in that 40 minutes. We got nothing from ED3 again, so we did make a little bit of money, of course, but unfortunately we didn't see a rare drop from here. We are still around about 190 dry now. It is what it is. That being said, after that I went for my 5th and final hour at Nex, and through this hour I got a total of nothing again. I got loads of freaking stone spirits, I got loads of torsal seeds. This was probably the worst Nex hour of my life. However, we did get some Cyrodiil and brew drops, so it is what it is. That being said, you need to take into account that during the Elite Dungeons on the duo, we got 5 runs. I got 2 in the 40 minutes rather than 5 in an hour. So that's a big difference. There's 3 ED3 chances there that we could have got another rare drop in. Then again, you also need to look at Nex too, and consider the fact that my kill times at Nex were not that good in comparison to what they were in a duo. In the duo, we were getting really fast kill times, and I would say easily double the amount of kills per hour than what I got in a solo, so you need to also take that into account too. We got 12 gloves in the duo. That could probably just come down to the fact that, you know, we got so many more kills, there's so many more opportunities to actually get a drop and get the split, and this is going to be a big part that plays into it. So overall, 5 hours done, I managed to get myself 2 trilogy runs, 2 ED3 runs, 1 hour of Raksha, 1 hour of Nex, and I got nothing so far. But the total value of money that I got from here, the actual price check at the end, all regular loot because no splits, no rares or anything like that, obviously no splits, there was 72 million GP, which was obviously 1.6 million GP more than the regular loot in a duo. Not that much different, is there? There's not that much. Anyway, let's jump into the roundup and the overall differences in this and why I think it is what it is and what I think would probably pay off better in the future. Okay, so let's sum this up and talk about whether solo PvM or duo PvM was actually better and whether I think that overall what the actual best choice is going to be. Basically, in the solo, I got myself a lovely and absolutely wonderful 72 million GP. In 5 hours. This is really bad. I got unlucky on rare drops, but you know what? That's the regular loot that I got, should I say, and it is what it is. In a duo, I got myself a nice 70.4 million GP in regular loot, not too like uncomparable to the solo, so the loot was pretty similar. I did get lucky with an ultra elite chest, so you can probably round it down to about 60 mil, I would say, not including that. That being said, you also need to take into account that during the duo, I would have got way more Nex kills because Chax was pretty much carrying it Nex, and 2 people versus Nex is just ridiculous. So that increases a lot of the drops that you could get from there as well. We need to not forget our variables that we mentioned earlier. RNG is going to play a huge part in this. Sometimes you're going to get way more regular loot as well, because if you go to Raksha and do a full hour there, and you just get dinosaur bones back to back, you're going to get way more money doing that than if you just got loads of seeds or stone spirits as well. So RNG still plays a part, but on average, this is probably pretty okay to look at. Overall, we did make a total of 549.4 mil doing duo, and we did just make the 72 mil in solo. So there's a couple of things to consider. In a duo, you're going to have to split any rare drops you get, but you are going to get more chances at getting rare drops. In a solo, you don't have to split anything, but you're going to get less chances at getting a rare drop. So you kind of have to weigh up the cons, the pros and the cons, and see what you think is going to be best. Now, the way I look at this is if you're going to be doing a lot of PvM, if you extend this from a test of 5 hours up to something like 50 hours, then there's going to be a big difference. And at that point, I think duo is going to pull ahead. The reason I think this is because, for example, take ED3 when we did this for the last hour. I managed to get myself 3 runs in an hour of ED3 on normal. I can do 3 runs an hour, but if we do it in the duo, we got ourselves 5 runs in 1 hour. 5, that's insane. Now, if you times that by 10, you get yourself 50 runs in a duo. rather than 30 in a solo. Now you may be thinking, but Init, that's still pretty good. So if rather than doing 10 hours, you did 20 hours, you would then be looking at 100 duo 83 kills and only 60 solo kills. That's quite a big difference, right? There's still going to be another 40 kill difference in there. And in those 40 kills, you could have got really lucky. You may have got nothing. You may have only got one, as the drop rate is 1 in 55. But the point is, in that time, you've given yourself way more chance to actually get a rare drop than if you did it all in solo. So I do think that overall, you are going to pull ahead with duo, as the gap does just increase and increase. And eventually, you are going to be making more money that way than if you just did it in a solo. That being said, you need to take into account the fact that if I'd got a single drop in solo during ED3, or at Raksha that wasn't a divert or any boots, if I'd got myself a nice codex, we would have had more money just from one drop. So you kind of have to weigh up the costs, and there's no way of a clear answer. Personally, I think duo is probably the better option, as it's going to be, one, a lot more enjoyable, because I had an absolute blast doing this for the 5 hours in the duo, and compared to the solo 5 hours, it was a lot more fun. But also the fact that if you went to next with 2 people, you're going to fly through those kills, double the amount of kills you get almost, and you're going to have the chance of getting so many more rares. It is going to pull ahead in the long run, even though you are splitting the drops. So overall, I do think you could make more money in a duo and also have a lot more fun, considering the regular loot isn't that much different from a solo to a duo, which actually blows my mind. But anyway, we are going to leave the video here. If you did enjoy, then make sure to leave a like, subscribe to the channel if you are new. Let me know in the comments what you prefer. Do you prefer to do solo PvM? Do you prefer to do duo PvM? Or do you prefer to do any sort of other group PvM from like 2+, 3+, whatever amount of people? And just let me know. I'm interested in finding out. Also, if any of you guys do recreate this, because it's quite often that people will, send me a message on Discord and just like let me know what information you get and the numbers and stuff that you get. I'd be really interested in finding out. Anyway, thank you all so much for watching. Thank you to the channel members who support the channel that much extra each and every month. You guys are absolutely amazing, and I very much appreciate it. Your names will have been on screen, of course, and as always, thank you very much to you guys. Anyway, I'll see you all in the next one. See you later, guys. Bye.